Hi, my name is Claire Goldsworthy and I'm the founder of The Fashion Advocate, a community of Australian fashion, beauty and lifestyle brands. Through The Fashion Advocate, I work with good people doing good things, and I'm passionate about sharing their stories. I want to show you that if you have a creative idea and you want to make a difference, that it can be done, because this whole series is about people who are doing just that. Prevention United is one of those good businesses, and they're a new mental health charity with big ambitions. Their mission is to empower people, families, organisations and communities to prevent mental health conditions by fostering strength and reducing risk. Anxiety and depression is very real in Australia. I've experienced it, and statistically it's likely that you will have too. Anxiety is the most common mental illness. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men in Australia will experience anxiety in their lifetime. Nearly 3 million Australians live with depression too, which affects their personal life, their professional life, and their productivity and well-being. I'm here today with Prevention United's director, Lachlan Kent, to talk about mental health and why it's so important to look after your mind. Hi Lachlan.
Hello.
How are you?
Well, thank you.
Those statistics are quite high. I had no idea anxiety and depression were so prevalent in Australia.
Yeah, and I think it's the same for mental health as physical health. We can expect, maybe not in the majority of cases, but for a lot of people, almost half of people, that a mental health condition will affect you at some point in your life. So we all kind of expect that our physical health will go up and down. Well, mental health, mental well-being goes up and down as well. And we kind of need to be prepared, I suppose, for that eventuality. And that's why, in terms of Prevention United, that's why we see it as, you know, what can people do sort of day in, day out to boost their mental well-being?
And mental health issues don't discriminate either. I mean, obviously the prevalence of it is quite high, and there are biological factors such as age and diet. There are also social and environmental factors that contribute to mental illness. What are they?
So it's really anything in your environment has an impact on your physical and your mental health. So we would say that the first environment and your most important and probably longest lasting environment is the family environment. So when you're a kid, the experiences that you're exposed to can have a lasting impact. So there was the Royal Commission into sexual abuse, childhood sexual abuse, and that's kind of raised people's awareness that negative or adverse experiences as a child have flow-on effects for people down the track, like mental health conditions and suicide are definitely more prevalent for those people. So really, if we're going to talk about 50% of mental health conditions develop by the time you're a teenager. So wow. Those early years and that early environment, even things as subtle like, or as subtle as parental conflict, you know, the amount of positive reinforcement at home or the school, these things really do have an effect on you. But even later in life, when sort of depression and anxiety become, you know, sort of the most common conditions or the more common conditions, it's really anything that affects you in society. So it can be discrimination, it can be the quality of your work, of your social life. So social connectedness is a massive factor. So how connected people feel to not only their friends and family, but just society in general, that feeling of I'm part of something that is positive, I'm part of society and not discriminated or disadvantaged.
It is something that society has only really started to talk about, I guess, whether it's we haven't felt comfortable in the past, whatever it is. I mean, for the last couple of decades, it's all been about fit and healthy fitness, you know, be healthy, beat obesity, be healthy and prevent gaining weight, but we don't talk about looking after your mind.
Well, I think, so organisations like Beyond Blue and Black Dog Institute, they've done a lot of work in the last 2 decades in educating people and sort of breaking the taboo around mental health, saying, well, these things the conditions are common, we need to be able to talk about them and talk about them openly if we're going to do anything about them at all. So yes, there has been a lot of advice or a strong movement around physical health, but we feel, and this is where, you know, prevention comes into it, that the daily routine of things that promote your mental well-being are just as important as going for a run, which can also be good for your mental health, but your diet, sleep, exercise, all those things can contribute to your mental well-being, and those things need to be measured as well. So if we can measure their impact, then we can justify saying, okay, like the Heart Foundation can say 5 serves of vegetables, low fat, low salt diet. Well, if we can get to the point where we know what to recommend for people for their mental well-being, I think society will be better off.
So what do you recommend? What are maybe just a top thing, maybe the top 3 things that you could recommend?
So we take a biopsychosocial approach. So yeah, there are biological factors like sleep, diet, exercise, alcohol and substances. So making sure that they're monitored and you're aware of what you're doing and what you're taking. But then there's an emotional side as well. So emotional flexibility is something that we concentrate on. So mindfulness practice is a great thing for people, to be able to monitor and regulate their emotions and their responses. You don't have to be happy all the time, but being aware and flexible in your emotional approach is really important. But then, like I was saying before, those social connections, that's probably been underestimated, the impact that they have on your mental well-being. And so that's the bio, psycho and social working together. That's a really simple message for people. Just make sure that you're getting a good balance of each, that it's a rounded approach, not just one, not just the other. It's about a rounded approach.
A balanced approach. So let's talk about that. You mentioned before about working with people and the social impact. We're obviously at Creative Cubes right now, and it has an incredible community, and there is a great support network of really cool people here. And the happiness team, when you walk in, it's a great way to start the day. And you've landed here because you won the pitch contest in collaboration with MYOB and Startup Victoria. Why is it so important to you to be at Creative Cubes and in this kind of community?
Well, I think it's a positive environment. So even just in their name, the happiness team, Creative Cubes, that sort of sets a tone for the place, doesn't it? It's about a positive experience at work. Even though we don't all work together, there's a shared understanding that we want this to be a positive workplace. We don't want the negativity and the sort of toxic workplace cultures that can pervade some organisations. They're taking a stance on that and saying, well, that's not what we want for this environment. So they've also so that's at the sort of micro level, but at the macro level, they've said, but we want to be socially responsible as an organisation. So they very kindly with MYOB have said, okay, you guys come and pitch to us for space, some free space for free rent for a year. So that shows a social conscience, really, that they're giving. We're a charity. They have helped us to save on rent, to use our funds, our limited funds, for maximum impact elsewhere. So that shows, they're socially aware that there are issues out there that they can contribute to in a small way by, giving us a little desk for 12 months, but they can have a big impact. So it's just not only a positive place, it's following that through with actions.
Paying it forward. Big impact, big social issue that you are obviously trying to change and to make better. But you're small, you're a startup. How did Prevention United come to be? How'd you start?
So it started with 3 of us. So it's myself, Dr. Stephen Carbone and Dr. Luke Martin. So we all met at Beyond Blue. We were working on different programs, but we all had a shared interest. So I come from sort of a research background. Luke is a clinician and Steve's a GP who's turned into like a strategy policy guy. So he was around for the start of Headspace. So the Headspace centres. There's one just over here in Hawthorne. So he was around sort of developing the high level strategy for that early on. So we connected and said, okay, Beyond Blue has been around for 2 decades and they do amazing work in letting people know what the signs and symptoms. There's a phone number that you can call. That's all great, but that's all after the point that you've become unwell. What about this prevention stuff? What about upstream? So we decided, okay, let's form our own little group and we'll just see what happens. So as a startup, we had they're grand ambitions, it's societal transformation that we're talking about, but we had no concrete plans on how that's going to take place. So as a startup, we say, okay, there's the goal, where and how do we get there?
If you can dream it, you can do it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's what I always say.
Yeah.
And prevention is definitely better than a cure.
For
and the
sure.
fact that we're here talking about it today, I think this is a really valuable lesson that we all need to be aware that obviously it's prevalent and it's going on, and more importantly, that it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah. And that it's possible that they're preventable.
Yeah.
The conditions, we don't need to wait for people to become unwell. There's a huge human toll from mental health conditions. We know the disability statistics, I don't want to say lost productivity because it sounds kind of economic, but really people not feeling that they can't contribute in their own, in their own unique ways. That's a massive human toll. So if we can prevent illness, we should be doing it.
Definitely. If you would like to learn more about Prevention United and learn about how you can prevent mental illness, definitely get in touch with Prevention United. You can head to preventionunited.org, and you can always join the creative community here and be supported by a great network of good people at Creative Cubes. As always, tune in next time for more good people doing good things and good stories. Bye.